and I think it was on Morning Joe, and it had to do, I think maybe about Ukraine. I don't remember, but it was something. It was she just. I said, wow, she's really got charisma, and she's really well spoken, and really just had. She's a real political athlete. That she's just. I was really impressed with her, and I remember thinking she'd beat the crap out of Trump.
Yeah.
And I tweeted that in 2019, and I just retweeted it the other day. I called it 5 years ago. And I think the thing about her is, and I was reading something that Joan Walsh wrote yesterday. She, I think, she has been inconsistent in as people perceived her. She's been criticized. She's been, and during her first couple of years of VP, she didn't have necessarily her best moments during the 2020 primary campaign.
Yeah.
And and somebody quoted in this Joan Walsh piece basically said, well, now, she realizes she has to just be who she is.
Brat.
And that, Brat, yes, Brat. And that's, that kind of authenticity. And I'm saying, and that is an amazing contrast with JD Vance, just to illustrate it. There is an authenticity about her when she gets into her happy mode.
Yeah.
Yeah. And okay, cackling, it's great, but that's like she's a human being. She's real. And
Yeah.
I think that is gonna, I think that is gonna ultimately put the final it's gonna bury Trump,
Yeah.
because Trump has only one, he has only one mode, which is just grievance and attack.
Mm-hmm.
It is exhausting. It
But
is
she's
exhausting.
but she's
She's
super
refreshing.
triggering to him, right? Like she's got to be super
Right.
triggering to him.
She's
And
refreshing, and he is exhausting, and she's going to trigger him.
yeah.
And he's saying crazy stuff even more than he was saying last week.
Uh, the laugh thing too.
He was back to Hannibal Lecter again. So why does he keep going back to Hannibal Lecter? I can't even figure out what the point is to Hannibal Lecter. There was speculation the other day. It was that he
Yeah.
thinks that an insane asylum and political asylum are somehow related because they both have the words asylum in them.
Yeah.
And not therefore, that's why he thinks of. I cannot figure out for the life of me what the point he's making with having Hannibal Lecter over for dinner.
Yeah, but you know better than anybody. The weird thing that he does, he said that first in the Jersey speech he gave down in Wildwood, where he was 10 bazillion people were there, right? That was so you could see it
Yeah,
was,
there were like 4,000 people there, and he said there were
yeah.
107,000.
But he said it
Right.
that first time. And what he does so often is when something gets attention, he said Hannibal Lecter, he said Hannibal Lecter. Every speech, every time. Oh no, I'm gonna say Hannibal Lecter.
And people go,
Lecter.
no,
Right.
no. That's the thing, is he has no actual sense of humor, because he's
Well, oh yeah,
to,
because
to actually
laughter
you
thing.
have
Yeah.
a sense of to have a really refined sense of humor. These, you see these comedians like Kimmel and all these people on television. They're the smartest people you see on television.
Yeah.
They really are, because they have this way of putting things together and seeing ironies that other people can't see. And that takes not only great intelligence, but a great sense of empathy and a great sense of an understanding of the human mind and soul. He
Mhm.
has none of that as a sociopath, which is why he doesn't actually understand humor, which is why he's not really funny, which is why you never ever actually see him laugh the way Kamala Harris does, for example.
Right.
He doesn't have a sense of humor. What he knows is he knows how to insult people. He knows how to attack people and mock people, but not because it's not necessarily in a funny way, because it lacks any subtlety or irony, but he thinks that's what humor is.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's more like a power play. He doesn't, and then
Well,
when he sees people laugh, he doesn't know why they're laughing.
mm.
He really doesn't, unless he's insulting somebody and mocking somebody and putting somebody down.
Are narcissists insecure? Like, because that's where people get
Yes.
people say to me, how can they be insecure and full of themselves at the same time? And then, so how is that possible?
It is, but that's the essence of narcissism. Okay.
Mhm.
Narcissism is when somebody, it's caused by basically just deep insecurity that somebody either is, I don't know, born with maybe, or just develops as a young child.
Mm.
And they deep down fear that they are not good enough. They fear failure. They fear that people are mocking them and making fun of them. and they overcompensate by being, by demeaning people, by trying to exercise control over them, by being, doing all the things that we see narcissists do. And that's why they're very, very sensitive to criticism. And in Trump's case, I mean, there have been books written about this. There's a great book written by Dr. Justin Frank, a Harvard-trained psychiatrist here in Washington, D.C. And then there's this amazing book by Mary Trump, who actually saw this firsthand, where basically it was because he had an abusive father who was sociopathic. And that was part of, and he had a mother who was very remote.
Yeah.
And that combination leads him to, he's a 5-year-old still.
Yeah.
He's,
Throwing rocks at babies.
he's a child. He's like, yeah. And it's all about him. It's all about, he never learned how to be an adult and how to be a human being.
And then there's trauma from when he was very young that he said he just stuck. He's just stuck there.
Yeah, and I think he was wired a certain way too. I mean, there's a description of him, of a neighbor remembers him when he was like 5 or 6 years old, throwing rocks at a toddler's playpen in a neighbor's yard. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Trump tells the story about him he assaulted a teacher once, and he got sent to military school because his father found, a set of knives, not kitchen knives, but weapons in his bedroom. That's why his father sent him to the New York, that New York school, whatever the military school. Yeah, no, I mean, he was never, as I say in these ads, he was never right in the head.